Imagine standing just a few feet from a massive mammoth weighing nearly 6 tons, with nothing but a tiny piece of carved reindeer bone standing between you and death. One careless breath could ruin the entire ambush, yet this small bone whistle produces a high-frequency signal only your tribe can recognize. Today, we're stepping back into the Ice Age to recreate the silent symphony that allowed prehistoric hunters to bring down the greatest giants of the frozen tundra. Picture yourself at the edge of an icy ravine. Every breath becomes a cloud of white vapor that freezes almost instantly in the bitter air. Only a few steps away, an enormous woolly mammoth calmly tears frozen moss from the ground. Its pillar-like legs support nearly 6 tons of muscle and bone, while its long, curved tusks could fling a person through the air with a single swing. You carry no steel sword, no sophisticated bow, and no modern trap. The only thing separating you from certain death is a tiny piece of reindeer bone, shorter than your finger, and carved with extraordinary precision. One breath that's too loud, or one crack beneath the thin ice, could destroy the entire ambush. Instead of becoming the hunter, you would become the first victim of an enraged giant. But this small piece of bone isn't a toy or a campfire curiosity. It represents one of the Stone Age's most advanced technologies, a whistle engineered to produce a high-frequency signal that only members of the hunting party can understand. Today we'll reconstruct the deadly silent symphony of the Ice Age tundra, where invisible sound allowed humans to outsmart creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. To understand how prehistoric hunters could bring down a mammoth without shouting or relying on visible hand signals, we first need to understand the science behind the bone whistle. Archaeological sites from the Aurignacian and Gravettian cultures, dating roughly 30,000 to 20,000 years ago, have revealed hollow bones from reindeer, wild horses, and large birds. These animals developed exceptionally dense cortical bone, making it ideal for producing sound. Once the marrow was removed and the bone was carved to precise proportions, it became an outstanding acoustic material. Unlike soft wood or porous antler, dense bone reflected vibrations efficiently instead of absorbing them. When air passed across the carefully carved opening, the whistle produced a sharp, clean tone that carried through the freezing air instead of a dull, muffled sound. The Ice Age tundra presented another challenge. Powerful winds swept across frozen valleys, glaciers cracked and shifted, and rivers of ice groaned beneath enormous pressure. Above all, migrating mammoth herds filled the landscape with deep, low-frequency rumbles. Like modern elephants, mammoths were especially sensitive to these sounds, including infrasonic communication that could travel for miles. Prehistoric hunters exploited this biological weakness by designing whistles that produced frequencies between roughly 3 and 5 kilohertz, outside the range most important to a mammoth's threat detection. These shorter, sharper sound waves cut through crosswinds and background noise, reaching hidden hunters while attracting little attention from the mammoths themselves. Avoiding the mammoth's hearing, however, wasn't enough. The whistle also had to blend naturally into the surrounding environment. During the brief spring and autumn seasons, the tundra echoed with the calls of migrating birds such as ptarmigans and sandpipers. The whistle closely resembled their alarm and contact calls, making its signals sound completely ordinary. To a mammoth, they were simply familiar bird calls drifting across the frozen landscape. By blending their signals into the natural soundscape, prehistoric hunters achieved something extraordinary: acoustic invisibility. They could stand almost within striking distance while remaining undetected. Their greatest advantage wasn't silence alone. It was the ability to hide communication inside the ordinary sounds of nature itself. The invention of the bone whistle wasn't a lucky accident. It was the result of thousands of years of innovation, observation, and experimentation. During the early Stone Age, humans used leftover bones as simple tools for scraping hides and processing meat. But as survival demanded hunting larger and more dangerous prey, toolmaking became far more sophisticated. Hunters selected bones with specific lengths, wall thicknesses, and internal diameters, then shaped them using finely crafted flint tools. Archaeological discoveries across Europe reveal remarkable consistency. Many surviving whistles measure between 2 and 3 inches long, with an internal bore of about 1/4 to nearly half an inch, dimensions that produce efficient resonance using nothing more than human breath. This wasn't ordinary craftsmanship, it was engineering. Building a functional bone whistle demanded extraordinary precision. Even a slight error while hollowing the marrow cavity or shaping the blowing edge could alter the pitch, weaken the signal, or eliminate its acoustic advantage. Craftspeople polished the surface with fine stone abrasives, then carved a small angled air channel near the mouthpiece, using the same aerodynamic principle found in a modern recorder, but optimized for freezing conditions. Each whistle was repeatedly tested outdoors before it was considered reliable enough for a hunting expedition. Owning a perfectly crafted whistle, however, was only the beginning. Survival depended on mastering it. The whistle wasn't simply an instrument. It functioned as a communication system capable of transmitting tactical information across great distances. Young members of prehistoric tribes likely spent years practicing controlled breathing and memorizing precise sound patterns. A short sequence might indicate the prey's distance. Rapid pulses could signal a change in wind direction. A sustained note might instruct everyone to remain perfectly still. Every pattern carried meaning. One misplaced note or mistimed signal could throw the hunting formation into confusion. Against a charging mammoth, even a brief hesitation could become fatal. Mastering the bone whistle wasn't just learning to make sound. It meant mastering an invisible language in which every breath carried information, every note guided strategy, and every signal helped determine whether the tribe returned home with food or was crushed beneath the feet of an Ice Age giant. When darkness settled over the frozen plains or dense fog swallowed the icy valleys, human vision shrank to only a few yards. Hand signals became useless, while spoken commands risked alerting the prey. In those moments, the bone whistle became the only link connecting the hunting party. To communicate across vast distances without exposing their position, prehistoric hunters transformed familiar bird calls into a tactical language. A rapid double trill instructed hunters on the flanks to shift quietly. A descending whistle meant, "Stop, stay hidden, the mammoth is turning." Rapid pulses warned that the wind had changed, signaling everyone to adjust their approach before their scent reached the herd. Every signal was short, precise, and instantly understood by those trained to recognize it. The brilliance of this system wasn't silence, it was camouflage. Instead of eliminating sound, hunters concealed themselves by blending into the natural soundscape. As mammoths crossed the tundra, familiar bird calls echoed constantly through the landscape. The whistle became just another ordinary sound. The herd leader couldn't distinguish between a real bird on a frozen ridge and the carefully crafted signal of hidden hunters. Without realizing it, the mammoth walked deeper into an ambush while believing everything around it remained perfectly normal. Creating this shared vocabulary represented far more than a clever hunting technique. It marked a major leap in human cognition. Every member of the group had to understand that specific sequences of notes carried specific meanings, and those meanings had to be taught, remembered, and passed from one generation to the next. Different hunting groups could coordinate over long distances without relying on direct speech. This level of abstract communication became one of Homo sapiens' greatest advantages. While predators such as saber-toothed cats and cave hyenas relied on instinct, humans developed organized cooperation built on shared symbols, collective planning, and invisible communication. Long before writing, radios, or military command systems, prehistoric hunters had already mastered one of civilization's most powerful ideas. Information could travel faster than people, and whoever controlled that information controlled the hunt. Now imagine the decisive moment of the hunt. The frozen landscape falls silent as every hunter waits, knowing the next few seconds will determine whether the tribe survives the coming winter. For hours, hunters have crawled through deep snow, hidden behind ice-covered boulders, and taken positions around a single mammoth. High above the valley, where the wind carries sound in exactly the right direction, the hunt leader waits with the bone whistle. Only one person will give the signal to begin. Everything becomes still. The mammoth sweeps its trunk across the snow in search of frozen roots. Then a single sharp whistle cuts through the howling wind. The attack begins. In an instant, hunters burst from the snow with flint-tipped spears, surrounding the mammoth before it can react. One moment they are invisible. The next, they close in from every direction. Panic overwhelms the giant before it can even choose an escape route, but surprising the mammoth is only the beginning. Once trapped, it swings its massive tusks with devastating force, searching for any opening to break through the line. This is where the bone whistle proves its greatest value. It doesn't just begin the attack, it controls the battle. As the mammoth charges north, a short whistle sounds from the southeast. Hunters immediately tighten their formation, plant their spears, and block its path. A second whistle comes from the western flank, sending reserve hunters forward to seal the final escape route. No one wastes time shouting. Every movement is synchronized through carefully timed bursts of sound, turning the battlefield into an orchestra directed by a language only trained hunters can understand. This communication system also protected the hunters themselves. During Ice Age megafauna hunts, a single mistake could cost several lives. Coordinated signals allowed the group to attack from multiple directions, steer the mammoth toward natural bottlenecks, and exhaust it through carefully timed waves of pressure instead of chaos. The mammoth wasn't defeated because humans were stronger. It fell because humans were better organized. Superior planning, disciplined teamwork, and mastery of sound transformed one of the largest animals ever to walk the earth into prey. Long before armies and military commanders, the foundations of coordinated warfare were already echoing across the frozen tundra on the breath of a tiny whistle carved from reindeer bone. At last, the mammoth collapses. Its towering body crashes onto the frozen earth as the final clouds of white vapor fade into the bitter tundra air. For the tribe, survival through the long winter is finally secured. But the true significance of this victory extends far beyond meat, ivory, and bone. Those tiny whistles carved from reindeer bone may represent humanity's earliest blueprint for organized tactical communication. Their core principles remain strikingly familiar today. Transmit information without revealing your position. Compress complex instructions into simple signals. Maintain secrecy in a hostile environment. Over thousands of years, those same ideas evolved into animal horns, bronze trumpets, military bugles, and eventually modern battlefield communications. The technology changed, but the strategy remained the same. Fast, accurate, and concealed communication became one of humanity's greatest military advantages. The same principle still guides today's special operations forces. Instead of shouting commands, elite soldiers rely on encrypted radios, bone conduction headsets, discrete earpieces, and secure audio signals to coordinate entire teams without exposing their position. The equipment is far more advanced, but the underlying idea remains unchanged. Control hidden communication, and you control the battlefield. Mastering the bone whistle marked one of the defining turning points in human evolution. Our ancestors succeeded not because they were larger, stronger, or better armed, but because they combined engineering, material science, acoustics, and collective intelligence into a single system. They built an invisible network of information that allowed many individuals to think and act as one. That ability carried humanity through the Ice Age, helped small communities overcome giants many times their size, and laid the foundation for every sophisticated communication system that followed. From the first carved bone whistle beside an ancient campfire to the encrypted signals guiding modern soldiers across today's battlefields, the same idea has echoed throughout human history. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the spear in your hand. It's the message no one else can hear.